It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 3 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge with myself and the Golden Groom. You can see our selections. They're starting to build up, Ronan Groome. They're running across the bottom of the screen there in the black bar. We will list out the selections maybe later on in the show. An absolute bumper weekend of horse racing, Ronan Groome. I landed the Nappin MB double, I'm going to boast, on our Thursday podcast with Grenadine winning the Tingle Creek. And of course, Edward Stone winning the King Henry VIII novice chase at Sandown. Great action, of course, at Punchestown as well. Lots to discuss. We'll be reviewing our selections as well. But the engagement, Ronan Groome, below in the comments, I think we saw over 140 comments down below. Lots of people getting involved, and you can feel the momentum building.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a crucial time during the season, Barry. This is where you got all the main pretenders coming out, and we obviously seen all the Willie Mullins horses coming out now, and a lot of people are pinning their hopes on the Willie Mullins kind of good novices, novice chasers and stuff like that. And it was interesting over the weekend, the contrast we had with Kilcrut turning over at 1-14 before Fernie Hollow winning. So yeah, it's a very important time for the Ante-Post punters. People very invested in it at this stage of the season. So we're starting to sort the wheat from the chaff, as they say.
Absolutely. It's running down across the bottom of the screen. Just give you an update on our selection so far. I put up Mighty Potter at 25-1 for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. And Urjameen absolutely romped up a monster, 5-1 for the Champion Chase. That was put up prior to the weekend. Magic Days, she disappointed me, Ronan. 20-1 for the Arkle Chase. Janadil, cracking run. I was happy
Big
with
run.
that. 50-1 for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. He was a long range effort. Ronan Groome's portfolio so far. Ellie May, 9-2 for the Mayor's Chase. Allaho, 7-2 for the Ryanair Chase. And Statuaire, 8-1 for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Just to give you a rundown, people can still get involved, Ronan. It's not too late. A selection every single week between now and the Cheltenham Festival. A standard selection is worth a point. You get to put in a team captain, and that's a 3-point selection. We get 4 long-range efforts, Ronan Groome, which are worth half a point each, and 2 wild cards. So the captain, the 2 wild cards, and the 4 long-range efforts can be played at any stage right throughout the season, but we must put in a standard selection minimum every single week between now and the Cheltenham Festival. We're going to start, as we always do, with the big race review. This week, Ronan, we're going to split it up. We're going to stay this side of the Irish Sea, first of all. It was on Sunday, the John Durkin Chase. How many had Willie even entered in here? I might let you take this one, Ronan. An absolute, probably the best renewal I can remember of the John Durkin Chase.
Yeah, it was very interesting renewal, Barry. This is my kind of selected race of the week. It's very interesting the way you view Allaho after the race. So one, he's obviously won the race, which was good. He's a horse that takes a run. So the fact that he's gone and won has to bode well for the rest of the season, and I see he's shortened up quite a lot for the Ryanair. But that said, the race must have taken a serious toll out of him, because they've absolutely finished punch drunk in this race, over about 2.5 miles now. All the Willies were obviously making their seasonal debuts. And he looked like for a second he wasn't going to get over the last Allaho. It was an amazing race to watch, really. And then you factor in the fact that Asturian Forlonge was going quite well at the time. He came down. And Boyalan doesn't look the horse that people thought he was. So altogether, I do think it's obviously positive. I'm a big Allaho fan. I've talked about him before we started doing these podcasts, and thought he's my team captain before last week. And obviously he's shortened up, so you got to be happy with that. But I would be worried, and Willie said it after the race as well, just how tired he finished. Will that race leave a mark on him for the rest of the season? I wouldn't expect him to see him out at Christmas. I think Willie said as much as well. And yeah, interesting to see what they do now. Maybe they just go back to that race in Turles as a little prep run for the Ryanair, which would be perfect, really, if you were on them for the Ryanair. But Interesting to see what happens now. A lot of interesting horses in behind, as I'm sure you'll allude to as well with Janadil. What did you think of his run? Did you think that's something going up a trip now up to the Gold Cup might be on the cards? Do you think you got to be happy with that, with the price you're on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he'd very good 2 mile novice form last year, hadn't he, Janadil? You know, we're going to speak about Energyman later in the show, but you know, he put in a decent performance over the minimum trip, I thought, at Punchestown at the back end of the last season. And I suppose the thing about Janadil is he jumps nice. You know, he's not over flashy. He was dropped in the race. He's versatile in terms of the ground. Probably a little bit better when there is a bit of cut in the ground. And I just think going up in trip, run, as I said on last week's show, I thought he ran an absolute cracker. And I think he's the type of horse that looks like he's more in the tank than maybe sometimes he shows. And I think later on this season, when he does step up to 3 mile plus, I put him in as a long range effort for the Gold Cup. Obviously, he's a long way to go in terms of the ratings, but I mean, this time last year, we weren't even mentioning that Plutard for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. So he's that type of horse. I think I'd love to see him line up in something like a Savills. I think he was Blue Baron at 12-1 for the Savills chase. Now, Willie did say after the race, just be interested to see how many of these he actually runs at Christmas. But Janadil is the type of horse. He's likely race, as I said. I thought he jumped professional. He does his best work, I think, at the finish. You mentioned Allaho. You know, he's the type of horse that has always come on for his seasonal reappearance or come on for the run, you know, first time up. So it'll be interesting to see. I thought he ran an absolute cracker. Asterion Forlange is the one that everyone were talking about coming into the race. He was travelling well. It'll be interesting to see where he goes next. Maybe something like a King George going right-handed. I don't know. But look, it was an absolute cracking race. Envoy Allen was a big disappointment, I felt. But yeah, look, I suppose, you know, Janadil for me is the horse to take out of it. The Tingle Creek Ronan, that's the one I suppose I want to look at. Grenadine, it was my nap of the weekend, as I mentioned, on the Thursday show. He's the type of horse, I think we're only scraping the surface with Grenadine. I think we had a bit of a schmozzle on Thursday podcast as to what way he's going to be ridden, and turned out that you were right in that he was dropped in. And he's the type of horse that, you know, very quick over his fences. You know, I think he had made one mistake throughout the race. You know, and he's the type of horse that could be only coming into his prime now. He's only 8 years of age, Grenadine. Yeah. And for me, he's the horse that sets the standard across the ocean. I mean, everyone is talking about Shishkin, but Grenadine now, you know, he stepped up to the plate. Interesting, Paul Nicholls talking about Hitman, though, after the race. He was the first horse he mentioned. Grenadine went and won the race, and he's talking about Hitman.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you could be right with Grenadine. He's obviously 7. Could be coming into his prime. For me, the whole race was just the theme of the race was how good a trainer Paul Nicholls is. Really, if you listen to Paul Nicholls at the start of the season, he basically laid you out the full season, where the full 2 runs for Grenadine. Said we're going to go to Exeter. He won't be ready to win there. He'll be out there to do his best, but you know, he'll definitely come on for the run. That's exactly what happened, and he's delivered him here to Sandown, ready to roll, and he's taken advantage. Now, I do think the race did fall apart. Obviously, Shakan hasn't run his race at all. He's probably a good stone, at least below his best. Never seemed to be travelling as well through the second half of the race. The writing was on the wall when they turned for home. Hitman and Captain Guinness are you know, they still probably have to prove themselves at the top level. And Nubia Negra ran no race either as well. I think we were discussing it on the podcast. Well, I think I was making the point that he could be a horse that goes well fresh, and maybe in hindsight, Skelton's probably think they might have ran him again too soon after Cheltenham. I think he'd have a chance now if they went straight to Cheltenham from here again, just with that fresh angle. I wouldn't give up on him. He ran no sort of race, and he's much better horse than he showed. So it did kind of fall apart in behind Grenadine. I'd suggest Barry. I'd still think Shishkin is 100% the number 1 on the British side anyway. I think it was Grenadine.
I just think he's a lot more straightforward now. I think you mentioned about him settling. He is settling a lot better. I thought Bryony gave him she gave him a very. He looks a lot more non. He looks very not. He doesn't look very complicated horse to ride. You know, she dropped him in, and the race developed. I do take your point about the race potentially falling apart a little, but he's gone away and done what he's had to do, and I thought he was impressive enough now.
Comfortable winner on in the race, but needs a lot more would be my kind of synopsis. Just needs maybe 5 or 6 pounds with the likes of Energy who we're going to talk about now, and Shishkin, and an informed Shakan. I wouldn't give up on him just yet, and Nube Negra even as well. You know, around Cheltenham, a better version of Nube Negra than we saw on Saturday. I still think Grenadine might need about 5 or 6 to get to that level.
Select the performance. Energy. What can we say? Look, people are going to expect it out of me now, probably at this stage, but he's an absolute monster. I mean, Notebook. I saw, was it Kevin Blake said on the Betfair podcast, he read a tweet after the race. Notebook will need a lung transplant after this. I don't know. He went up and joined them, didn't he? You know, they got racing, I'd say, nearly a full circuit from home. I just thought it was a phenomenal performance, end to end. He jumped, he galloped, and he maintained the gallop right throughout. They absolutely, the ones who were ridden to close Ronan Groome in here, Energy, first time up in open company. The ones that were ridden, I suppose, to close late, finished the race walking. He absolutely pulverized them here. And you know, you have to remember, it was only the horse's first run of the season also. Like he was only having his first run. So some of the horses in behind were after having the benefit of a run. So I just thought it was an incredible performance. Unibet, which is interesting. Make it 7-4, 2-1. And I just think the airplane, you know, he's going to take the world of beating in this division this year, Ronan Groome.
I was very impressed, I have to say. I take exactly how I saw the race exactly the way you saw. I think they Notebook tried to go with him and paid the price for trying to lay up with him. And then you're thinking, oh God, geez, he could come back to the ones that were ridden a bit colder. And he's galloped straight to the line, and he's held his advantage there, and he's won 8 lengths comfortable. The one thing I suppose we talked about last year, Barry, and I'm going to ask you or put it to you, it's just a niggle at the back of your mind that the Cheltenham factor with him. And I just wondered, as the biggest fan that you are of Energy, that's got to be in your mind going back in. He's not going to get that experience that Shishkin has. Shishkin's obviously proven he's a 2-time festival winner. So whatever way the season goes, and you can't think that they're going to be, Shishkin and Energy are probably going to stay the same level all the way. You know, they're probably going to be not going to do anything crazily big or bad. They're probably going to be going into the Cheltenham Festival, and that question mark will still be over in Energy. That will probably be the big talk of the preview nights when we get around there.
So what do you think? Yeah. Well, Siskin now has to come out and do it, doesn't he? In open company. I mean, if you know, I suppose the former the Arkle Eldorado Allen won the was it the Halden Gold Cup, but I don't know. I just think Energy, what are his biggest strengths, Ronan Groome? I mean, it's his jumping, and he's a strong staying 2-miler. He will maintain the gallop, and I don't see any issue with the hill. You know, he's a horse that's his good cruising speed. You know, his jumping is electric. He's an absolute machine, Ronan Groome. I think he'll devour the hill, and that's just my view on it. The one thing I would say about him, if it was to, I suppose, you know, good to soft ground, I think would be okay for him. I mean, he's done it on quicker ground than he's done it on quicker ground. Was it at Punchestown? So you know, he's won a point to point on good ground. But I just think if there's any little thing I'd like to see at Cheltenham, I'd like to see good to soft ground. You know, soft ground, the softer probably the better for him. But in terms of the track, I don't know. I think he'd be fine. The way he shapes, the way he gallops, the way he jumps, the way he stays, I don't think that's going to be an issue to him. But just on performance, that is my selected performance of the week. But I have to give a mention to Constitution Hill. this fella. And did you hear Nicky Henderson's? I was kind of split between the two because everyone knows I'm an Energy fan, but this horse really impressed me. He looked very non-complicated. His jumping was excellent for a first time over hurdles. I think there's the Barry Geraghty connection there, isn't there? He tweeted after the race about Constitution Hill. And Nicky Henderson's comments after the race, anyone who didn't see the interview needs to go and watch it. What did he call him? He's the most extraordinary creature he's seen for years. He's the most extraordinary creature I've ever seen, which is a big statement from Nicky Henderson. He said he's absolutely pure, laid back, this horse. And when you press the button, it goes. When you press the button, it goes. Nicky, what a man. Nicky Henderson Gold, did record that, but I think this guy, he has John Bon as well. But when they did press the button on this horse, I mean, to do what he done at Sandown, stiff uphill finish, to me, he was mighty impressive. And the horse that he beat, Might I, I'd say he's pretty well regarded as well in Harry Fry's. So the turn of foot he showed at Sandown, and his jumping was very good right throughout. I think this fella, look, he's been well supported. Only he's 5-1 now for Supreme Novices Hurdle, but I think this lad could be top drawer.
Yeah, he's very good. Now he's visually very impressive. Recorded a very good time, and the direct comparison is there with Jean Bon, isn't it? Really, Nicky's other horse. But Nicky did say, actually, interesting enough, when he was on Nick Luck there a few weeks ago, that he had particularly very good, nice bunch of novice hurdlers this year. So I wonder, is there any more to come out as well? That's probably worth keeping an eye on. Just one thing to consider. Yeah.
Well, who's your selected performer?
One thing just to consider with that market, I guess it's John Bon and Constitution Hill at the top of the market with very little Irish runners. I guess Willie, obviously an elephant in the room there, hasn't let a lot of his horses start yet. So it's probably just everyone's talking about which one's the better value in that. Like, they both could look silly prices after Christmas or even January when Willie gets a lot of his horses out, So just probably I'd hold fire on the spring market now if I was, having to have a play or whatever. So yeah.
I do agree with you, Ron. I don't think it's the time to be getting involved, certainly at those sort of prices. We still have a lot of racing, I suppose, to happen. I suppose early in the spring and over, of course, obviously over the Christmas period. But selective performance for you?
Well, it was. We kind of talked about it earlier on. Alaho, I just thought that was very interesting with regards to the rest of the season, what they're going to do with him, whether he goes, whether he runs again in a proper race or just has that nice little kind of Turles Grade 2. I think I can't remember the name of the race that he beat Ellie May in last year, but if that was the case, I think that would work out lovely for the Ryanair. So if you're on at 7-2 or 4-1 or whatever, and he just has the nice quiet race or Turles, I think that's absolutely perfect for you if you're playing Ante-Post. He'll get the cotton wool treatment, and he'll arrive in Cheltenham a 6-4 shot or even shorter. So yeah, just hoping that the run doesn't take a toll on him, because it was mad. They finished that race out like the Midlands National. It was crazy. So he did jump out a bit to his left, but I've seen him do that before. I think he'd be better left-handed as well, obviously. So fine for Cheltenham and that sort of thing. So very interested to see how he goes going forward. But obviously pleased now that he's my team captain. Got him in there at 7-2, and we're looking at a 5-2, 9-4 shot now. So that's all bodes well.
Over and under section, Ronan Groome. Next section of the show. I'll start here. Overrated Protectorate. This thing getting quotes of, shouldn't call it a thing, but 16-1 for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. The horse will be lapped in this. Can't have this whatsoever. I mean, the race, Native River, you were banging on about him on the Thursday show. This fella, I don't know. Why is he still in train? I don't know. The race was very slow. Look, the ground at Aintree really cut up, didn't it? To be fair.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about any of the form from Aintree over the weekend. The ground was really testing. And especially at Aintree. It was Imperial Aura ran no race. I fancied him going into the race. And after that, I mean, what are you looking at? Sam Brown, Simply the Bets. they're not exactly graded horses, and you know they didn't exactly go. I get the ground was soft, but it was quite. They looked like they went quite slow, and I don't know. It just looked a kind of a messy race. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he was as impressive as the winning distance maybe suggested. So he was my overrated performance. In terms of underrated, I'd probably pick Janadale actually out of the John Durkin. I mean, it was a big old price for the race. Was he 33 to 1? Was probably the biggest price I saw about Janadale for the race. You've already kind of mentioned it. I just think going up in trip, he's one to look forward to. And lots of talk about Asterion Furlong, Jalloho even, but he might be the horse to go under the radar. So I thought that was quite an underrated performance from him. First time up again in open company. What about you? Over and unders for yourself?
I agree with you. I agree with you, Barry, on the over. I think Protectorat. I couldn't really. I was searching to try and find another option, and I couldn't really actually this weekend. As I said, there's maybe, as you said, there was a couple of performances at Aintree that maybe looked better than they actually were. But Protectorat has probably proved that he could stay over the 3 miles, and that's all he's done really, because there's very little substance to that form at all. Look, I did make a case for Native River, but maybe he's just gone. Or he's 11 now, as you say. Maybe he's probably regressing at this stage, and Sam Brown's the only other horse to finish the race. So I would be skeptical of him going forward. One thing, I thought he was a player for the Ryanair, so if you are on Adaho like I am, I just don't mind him going and winning the 3 miles, because they might start campaigning him over that trip now. I think he'd probably have a much better chance in the Ryanair. So yes, on my underrated, I liked Largy debut. All the talk of Kilcrush, obviously 1 to 14 was the shortest price I think in 25 years beaten in Ireland. But so no talk about Largy debut. He was a nice horse in his own right for Chris Jones and Henry de Bromhead. Finished the race. I think it was a second faster than Dysart Dynamo, who a lot of people like for the Supreme. That won the second divide, and it just put Kilcrush. The two of them went at it early on, and Kilcrush had no answer to Largy debut, who went on and won it. So I'd like to see him again, Largy debut, and maybe we're concentrating too much on Kilcrush being disappointing, and maybe he just bumped into a nice horse. Not saying that there was an excuse for Kilcrush or whatever, or that sort of thing, but I'd give Largy debut another chance. I thought that was impressive. He jumped well and he got him under pressure, Kilcrush, and just had no answer to him. So let's see what happens there.
Ronan Groome, first innings on this one. Tracker horse.
Yeah, I had a couple, Barry. Back it was on the Thursday podcast. I was big on Chris's Dream, and anyone who watched that race could see him just creeping into the race. And did you see the reaction of John Joe Neal when he fell at the Canal Turner? He was very visually disgusted with himself, threw his helmet on the ground, and I think he reported after that he felt he was going very well. That's frustrating there, because he's obviously a horse that goes well fresh, and that might have been the day for him. I'm not sure if he stays the trip well enough in the Grand National or what they're going to do with him now, but interesting to see where he goes. The Devil's Coachman at Punchestown, thought he ran a lovely race. Third to Fernie Hollow there. Got a bit outpaced on the turn and stayed on late on behind two good horses, Cour Sublime and Fernie Hollow. Could see him doing something. Maybe he could be like a Dan Moore horse, or 2.5 mile kind of handicap chase might suit him even better. And then one at Navan, A Great View. This is a nice horse back in the day. I think he won a big Punchestown handicap hurdle over 3 miles off probably, I think it was 131. He was running second to Commander of Fleet. Ran on late in the day. He's 8 pounds lower now than his last winning mark, so I'll give him a chance going forward. Maybe there's a 3 mile race. There's a Pertemps qualifier at Leopardstown at Christmas. I think he finished second in that 1 year. He could be a big player for that now in a couple of weeks' time.
Interesting. I love my Tom Lacey horses, and this Cruise Control. 4-year-old by Santa Sans ran second in a bumper at Chepstow. And I know you not a bumper man, but I don't think this horse is going to be running in bumpers for long. He's a big rangy sort. Was kind of ridden cold. He was well supported actually in the market. went off 4-1 giant favourite. But you could just see Stan Shepherd. Is that Ronan Groome literally walked away when I started talking about bumpers? But anyway, yeah, he was ridden cold. And if you look back at the race, I mean, the ground he made up as it was turning into the straight, he sort of bumped along. It was hands and heels the whole way up the straight, but a big galloping sort. This fella is, and he stayed on quite well. I think into second. I thought he was going to come and win the race. He was well supported previously, and I think this horse is going to go and win races. I wouldn't be surprised if this horse goes over hurdles pretty soon. Reading some comments, I suppose, last year about the horse. Tom Lacey, I'm not sure if he's going to have a bumper campaign as such, but I think he's a nice horse. That's cruise control. So he's got into my tracker. I'd say 2.5 mile over hurdles, novice hurdles this season. I'm looking forward to seeing him now. So yeah, into the tracker, cruise control, 4-year-old by Sant de Sants. Ronan Groome, we haven't used this tool yet, but is there anything for the Stewards Room this week? I'll tell you one thing I'd like to mention, kind of, I suppose, annoyed me over the weekend. Not so much calling somebody into the Stewards Room, but what is the story with all the fences being taken out? Is that necessary in your view? Obviously, health and safety comes to the fore, but how many fences were taken out down the back in the John Darkin? Was it 3 fences or something?
Yeah, it's a hard one, Barry, to be honest, because what do you do? Like, yeah, it's safety is paramount now for the horses, so there's no real argument away. You can't do it, and the jockeys obviously have a say as well. Do you move the big race to a certain time? Do you make it later in the day? But then, I don't know, like a lot of these big races are on television on their prime time. It's difficult one now to pitch. There's no real thing around it. You can't put like shades up at the fences or something to blind the sun. I don't really know if there's a real answer to it. Maybe you have a race a bit later in the day if you think there's a danger of the sun coming in, and maybe that get around the TV that way. For example, if the John Darkin was half an hour later on the card yesterday, we avoid that sort of thing, because obviously that's a huge thing. When you take out a certain amount of fences in any race, it's going to change the dynamic of the contest altogether. So you want to see the fences jumped. So, but I'm just not sure there's a rock solid solution.
Yes, so Ronan Groome, as we go through the season, we are going to be, I suppose, talking our way through our portfolio to date. So talk us through your selections so far, where you sit with them. I know Ellie May ran at entry. She was disappointing at the weekend, but go on, take us through your selections. Yeah,
disappointed with Ellie May. She's out to 8-1 for the Mayor's Chase. Wouldn't give up on her now. I don't think she ran anywhere close to what she's usually capable of. So a couple of Willies ran disappointing the weekend. Maybe there's some more to that. And, a lot of them were making their seasonal debut. Maybe he left a few of them short. So wouldn't give up on Ellie May at all. She's out to 8-1. Statuaire, obviously, hasn't ran since, but holding up around 8-1 on the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. I still think she could be okay around Christmas time if she gets a chance against the boys. She's ran to a good standard already. And as we discussed earlier, Allaho is obviously shortened up significantly now, and I think has been even referenced after there was talk about Willie going down and trip was mentioning it, but Richard Thompson of Cheveley Park Stud was interviewed after the race, and then more or less confirmed the Ryanair would have to be his sort of target, So yeah, and Willie with Energy running so well now, kind of confirming his promise over the 2 miles. Is well stacked at the 2 mile kind of division as well. So it all adds up to Allaho will end up getting to the Ryanair and have kind of a season that's kind of all about getting there, much like Min used to be, all about getting to the Ryanair. So it will be campaigned, quietly long, and just he could end up being looking like banker material come today. So I'm very happy with my captain's pick there. What about you?
Yeah, you mentioned captain's pick, and Jermaine pull up at 5-1. He's as big as 5-2 now. So rock solid team captain Ronan Groome. So yeah, delighted with him. I just think he's going to take an awful lot of stopping both sides of the water this season in the 2 mile chase division. I want to talk about Mighty Potter because lots of all the Shrewdies were putting them up for the Ballymore after his run in the Royal Bond, but I give him another try at 2 mile. I'm not just saying it because I have him in the Supreme at 25s, but I'm not giving up on him. He's entered to go at Leopardstown at Christmas, over the minimum, and the fact that he, I suppose, pulled Brian Cooper's arms out, I suppose, for a full circuit. Sorry, for a full half circuit. That doesn't really make sense for a half a circuit. And in Fairyhouse, suggests to me that maybe a faster run 2 miles on softer ground, when not ridden as cold, maybe I suppose ridden prominently, in the first 3. I think that's the sort of conditions he needs, and I think he is I think he will step forward. He's an absolute unit of a horse. So I was up at Fairyhouse and saw him. So I think he's going to come on for that, and jumped a lot better the last day in the Royal Bond. So I'm not giving up on him by any matter of means. As I said, I love Constitution Hill. We don't know what Willie's going to unleash in the next couple of weeks. We have a suspicion of maybe 1 or 2 horses that have still to come out, the likes of Briscoe, Gavan. So Dysart Diamond was impressive, but look, Mighty Potter, I think this horse still has a lot to, still could do a lot of improvement over the minimum trip of 2 miles. Magic Days, she disappointed me, Ronan. I must say, she was my selection last week, and what was she backed from 9 to 4 into 5 to 4 favourite for the race? I think she was odds on at one point in time, certainly on the exchanges. And I was disappointed she didn't go and get it done now. I don't think it helped the fence has been taken out down the back. But I think she might have underperformed for some reason. I'm not sure if that was her true run, but she was disappointing. She's drifted from 20 to 1, which I think 33 to 1 available on her now. So look, wouldn't totally give up on her, but that doesn't look too promising. And then want to talk about Janadil for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. He was my first long range effort. We've mentioned him a couple of times on the show. Look, it'll be interesting to see where he goes at Christmas. I think he is unexposed over 3 miles, and he was the one to take out of the John Durkin in terms of an eye catcher. So yeah, he has shortened up for the Cheltenham Gold Cup from 50s into 33s. So we can't complain about that. Ronan Groome, this week's selections. How many selections are you going to put in, and are you going to put in your regular selection first of all?
I will. I will. I've turned myself off putting on my long range effort. I'll tell you who it was going to be, but I'll put in my standard selection this week is going to be Riviere de Tel for the Arkle.
Ooh.
Look, and it's not directly to do with her performance on Saturday, which she was very good in again, but the form of that race didn't work out well. But what did work out was the form of her previous races. Jeremy's Flame running right up beside Concertista and ahead of Magic Days in the racing you're just talking about there, Barry. Riviere de Tel bet Jeremy's Flame easily on her debut over fences at Fairyhouse. She then went on and beat Cape Gentleman by 21 lengths. Cape Gentleman ran quite well in the Drinmore until he came down, and now Riviere de Tel's gone on and won again. Like there seems to be an asterisk beside her performances, as in, she's getting the allowances now, so Gordon's making hay, which is fair enough. But Fakir Duderies did kind of similar thing when he was around as a novice, and still was very competitive in Arkle. Only found put Kettle on too good. She obviously came back, and we all know how good she is at Cheltenham. I just think this Riviere de Tel could be an underrated quantity at this point. I think she still might go for the 2 miler on St. Stephen's Day, and if she goes and wins that, makes it 4 on the bounce, I think people will have to start taking her very seriously then. I think you can get 12 to 1, 12 to 1 across the board. Seems pretty fair to me for the Arkle. She'll still get a mare's allowance, and she can use her jumping. The slight concern was that she jumped a bit to her right in Navan, but that's something that could be ironed out come the time at Cheltenham, and I'm sure they're working back from the Arkle using her jumping 2 mile speed. She could be a real weapon in the Arkle. So yeah, for me, that's my latest selection is Riviere de Tel.
Are you going to put in a long shot effort, Ronan Groome?
I'm not. No, I tell you, the horse I was thinking about was Saint Felician, who I'm a big fan of. I think could be a tool from Gordon's Yard. He's not a novice though, so he has to go for the champion hurdle, and I just think they'll probably duck that and try and find the handicap for him. So I was looking at the markets to win a race at Cheltenham, and he's not priced up anywhere. So I'm going to have to swerve that this week. But he's a horse I like a lot, Saint Felician. Won very nicely on his debut. He's owned by Rob Corr. I think he goes for a race on New Year's Eve at Punchestown. Gordon was telling me last week. And they like him a lot at Conatra, so keep an eye on him. He won a race in France in March in the toy, so he's not a novice here. His novice days are up, I think, as of last month.
David Cotin, was he?
Could have caught me on the spot there, Barry, but could have been. I think yeah. But I think he's going to be quietly. I think Gordon was talking about the Red Mills, and then he just looks the type that they could find a handicap hurdle option for him at Cheltenham rather than go and take on Honeysuckle as a 5-year-old. Might just be sensible for this year. So I was looking at number 33 for the champion, but probably need a bit more evidence to get involved and just be worried that they duck and dive Honeysuckle this year. But watch out for him anyway, St. Felician.
Just looking at some of the markets that I suppose some of the races that I suppose are wide open. And the race that came down on was the Stairs Hurdle. And I suppose if you look at the top of the market, Classical Dream still has a good bit to prove, does he not? Will he go the Stairs route? Buzz seems to be the buzz horse, if you like, certainly in across the other side of the sea in terms of the Stairs Hurdle. Tyne Hill, he's kind of had his chance last year. I'm sure he's going to be a contender again this year. Flooring Porter, arguably, is a big price, at 10 to 1. And you kind of come down further than that. You've Roxana, Envoy Allen, Gallop and the Champs. You've the likes of, Bob Ollinger's even priced up, Appreciated, Beacon Edge. I mean, there's none of these going to go to the Stairs Hurdle. And it came down on Sporting John. He's a horse that I've always kind of liked. He won a point-to-point in Burris House before going. I suppose Hobbs has always liked him a lot, and I suppose he's a two-time Grade 1 winner. He's proven over 3 miles. He's had a wind up. Chasing didn't work out for him. He's had a wind up since. He's come back over hurdles at Cheltenham. I suppose which. I thought he was mighty impressive. It was hands and heels to the line, Ronan Groome. I think he won off a mark. This was the mid 140s. He's up to 151 now, and he's entered again this weekend at Cheltenham in a handicap off top weight, and worried to go and win that. He's proven at Cheltenham, proven over 3 miles. I think he's one that could step up into graded company. I think he is a graded horse, as I said. He bet Chamblou last year over fences. Staying on late. He's won a Grade 1 over hurdles previously. I think this horse has a lot of improvement in him. He's still unexposed, and I just really like the way he done it the last time. He's slick over his hurdles. He's a nice blend of speed and stamina. And I thought he showed a good turn of foot in a handicap, I suppose, off top weight from the back of the last. And it was hands and heels. Like, he don't think he even got a smack. And he powered up the hill. So he's a horse, I think, 20 to 1, Ronan Groome. He's 20 to 1 with 3 bookmakers. If were he to go and win this weekend upcoming, I don't think you're going to see 20 to 1 about Sporting John. So I'll put him in as a regular selection. I'm keeping the prices big. Hopefully we'll click one in the next couple of weeks. But, it's kind of a tricky week, isn't it? Like, because you have obviously the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup, or the Racing Post Gold Cup, as it's called now. The next weekend we have, of course, the long distance hurdle, but Sporting John, he's one. I think there's juice in that price at 20 to 1. Thoughts on my selection, and I'll come in on yours.
Yeah, interesting one, I guess. Yeah, he was talented chaser going novice chasing last season, didn't work out for him. It reminds me of a horse called Fingal Bay, I guess, that Philip Hobbs brought back over hurdles. Was a kind of a hypey enough novice chaser, didn't work out for him and came back over hurdles. I think he won the Pertemps, didn't he? Over 3 miles at Cheltenham. So I can see where you're coming from. I was full sure you were going to join the Abacadabra's stairs hurdle movement when you were going down through the market there. But Sporting John, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah. So yeah, interesting
But
to
look,
see.
he's only had 9 runs in his life, Ronan. I suppose I fancied him going into the Ballymore against Envoy Allen, and I just don't think he ran his race that day. And he looks more of a hurdle. He looks more at home over hurdles. Obviously, as I said, chasing didn't work out for him, so he's coming back this season. He's one I like, I must say. I'm quite excited about this one, but I say that every week, Ronan Groome. So we'll see how it goes. That's my selection, and unfortunately, I'm not going to put in a long range this week, or am I going to put in a wild card? So just 2 selections for the show this week. Want to thank everyone for getting involved. Continue to update your tracker in the comments. So post your template, update your selection for week 3. If you're putting in a wild card, if you're putting in a long range effort, or your captain this week, you must put in your regular selection as well. So look, it's a bit of fun, Ronan Groome. We're starting to build a bit of momentum, and let's keep it going.
Definitely.
We'll see you next week.